Waters Garden Center. Today's class is going to be on flowering trees. What have been all those things blooming around town? You'll be a pro after this class. Tune in. Cover today is the flowering trees. A lot of them are my favorites, and then I brought the unusual, different, you're not going to see it anywhere else, and then how to make them grow, how to plant them. So I just talked to the planting crew yesterday that came in from Dewey. They had plantings out Prescott Valley, Dewey. And be careful right now. You're going to be tempted to turn your irrigation on and overwater things. So they were digging holes yesterday, and as fast as they were digging the hole, they were filling up with water. Now that's unique to Dewey, that part of 69 corridor, but they were hitting caliche layers, and literally the ground is very, very moist. So it'll take a while for it to dry out. I would say, for those you tuned in, watch when you turn that irrigation on. Don't turn it on, then water too much. We like to turn the irrigation on, and we're gardeners, we're Americans, and we love more is better, bigger is better, super size. Plants don't like that. So we're seeing a lot of plant deaths out that 69 corridor area where the plants are literally sitting in moisture and they rot. The roots are only going down about that deep. They're not going down at all. They're trying to breathe desperately. And so we've got quite the following on that, what is that, east side, Viewpoint, Pronghorn, Granville, those areas. We have a very large following. We're going out there all the time, and we're seeing death from overwatering. So it's just a warning right now. It doesn't pertain to this class, but you should be aware. Yes?
Is it just this time of year?
It's all the time of the year, but we've had a lot of moisture, and it got warm where we took a layer of clothing off, and all of a sudden we think the plants need to drink more, and the ground is going to take weeks before it dries out. So we've had unusual amounts of moisture, more than the average. And so that's I think what's causing that. Should we just go down the plant list and show you now? The first one to announce spring, you've been seeing it bloom for about 2-3 weeks now, is the purple leaf plum. It had pink flowers on it, and right now you're seeing the transition from purple, from that pink flower to the purple foliage. And so that's one that actually does announce spring. It's the first one. Does not put a fruit on. Actually, some years it can, about once every 10 years, it puts on a little tiny cherry-sized plum. But usually it's an ornamental blooming plum. It's meant to bloom and not put any fruit on. So not messy. It is a good plant for here. Purple is a unusual color for the foliage to be purple, and it stays that color. It comes out in purple. Summer it's purple. In the fall color it's purple. Sheds its leaves, deciduous purple. So it is possible to get too much purple. Just so some people they love that purple, and the whole yard is nothing but purple when they get done. And you need some contrasting colors sometimes. The other white colored tree right now, you're seeing a tree that's probably 35 foot tall, bright old white flowers all around town, just total white. And it's starting to transition now as well. That's a flowering pear. There's several varieties. We've got Bradford, Chanticleer, Aristocrat.
We have a dwarf one called a Jack pear.
Jack pear, real cute little short one.
Little tiny tree.
So those are all the same thing. Same thing. Does not fruit. Just puts on the white flowers, and then right now it's transitioning to this real pretty kind of silver dollar size, maybe a little bit bigger leaf. Very glossy green. So you're seeing this transition with flowers, and then it puts the foliage on. Then it will just be this real pretty shade tree at that point. The difference between all the varieties is the width. So Bradford pear is this big round one. Chanticleer is the next size, and it's Aristocrat. No, it's Chanticleer, Aristocrat, Chanticleer. What is it? Anyway, it's by width. So just look at the tag, it'll tell you how wide it gets.
I think the Aristocrat is the most narrow
one. Gotcha. Good. And the Jack pear is the tiniest, pint-sized thing.
Great
10
for containers,
yeah.
Small yards.
For that front entrance, I've designed them into that front door where you got a little planting space, but it's full sun. I've put it right there, and it does really, really well. And then it's also the last tree to turn red in the fall of the year. Most of these trees we're talking about today will have a fabulous fall color. A lot of them reds and oranges, some of them golds. So we'll try to mention which ones are which, so that'll be of interest to you. So these have 3 seasons that we're really covering. It's going to be spring bloom, summer shade, fall color, and then they're deciduous. All of these are deciduous trees. Okay. What else? Why don't we bring them down and just show them off?
Sure.
Why don't I take this chair and I'll use it as a podium or stadium. There you go. Where the Facebook folks can see a little better. And then, how about if I start with redbud? Yeah, well, I wanted to go over all the ones that are blooming now and then also the ones that summer bloomers. So this one just opened up about a week ago. Right now in Prescott Valley, the pink trees you're seeing, it's this one. This is redbud. Super drought hardy tree. We're trying to introduce more varieties all the time. So, because it's such a good tree for the mountains of Arizona. It goes down to like minus 40 degrees. It's good at all elevations. The eastern redbud is the one that our grandparents planted. We're kind of a muted light pink flower. And the leaf is kind of a heart-shaped leaf about this size. We're trying to introduce more of these brighter pinks to almost reds. And now we're starting to introduce this bright pink with a purple leaf. So you see the same heart-shaped redbud leaf, but it'll have a tinge of purple to it. So it gives it some interest. This one, if you're going to kill it, I would say it'd be from overwatering, overcare. So it's very drought hardy. So great in raised beds because it only gets to about mid-teens, and then it kind of tops out and gets kind of this umbrella shape to it. And so it's a very pretty, lacy, easy. You can put it almost any place, and it'll do well. It takes our wind out in the valley areas, Chino Valley, Paulden. It would take all that ferocious wind. Redbud.
So yeah, there's a western redbud, which is more of the native redbud. Stays a little bit smaller, but talk about a tough tree. If you've got a hot spot or a spot that you've just struggled to get something going in, that western redbud is amazing.
Really?
And then they've also come out with, and I don't think we brought it up, but they came up with one called Ruby Falls redbud. It's a weeping redbud. I'm going to take one home and put it in a container this year because I want to see how it grows.
You are?
By the front door.
Okay.
Because we killed a juniper. He killed a juniper.
Yeah.
By overwatering it, so I want to try this little weeping redbud in there, and it has kind of a.
I think I'm going to
stuck
switch.
that right in front of my face.
Well, I'm going to switch because the folks are seeing how it's too bright.
Oh, okay.
And so the screen, maybe I'm hoping they can see better.
See the colors?
Yeah.
So the Ruby Falls also has kind of that burgundy leaf to it as well. We have some down outside the lower greenhouse, but very, very pretty. Check it out if you're looking for a little small, unique tree.
So another one that you just saw open up this week. So the storm hit and this one opened. It just celebrated. I noticed I took an Instagram of our honeysuckle went into bloom today, or yesterday as well. So real bright colors coming out right now. The brightest, if you're running towards red, purples, very, very deep pinks, mauve colors, that's going to be a crabapple. The flowers are larger and they're showier, much brighter. You'd see now this is not a variety that gets the great big crab apples. We don't sell that one. No one wants it. It's messy. But they do have this ornamental crab apple. So here you get these bright colors. It's a pollinator for butterflies, bees, that kind of stuff. And it just has this great color. This one actually will turn a orange color in the fall of the year. So crab apples go up to about 20, maybe 25, low 20-foot height. And kind of has an umbrella, kind of ball shape like that to it. So it's a very nice medium-sized tree that can produce some shade as well, but you just get this every time. So all those the brightest colored trees you're seeing around town right now is going to be crabapple. This happens to be radiant crabapple. We've got probably 3 or 4 varieties down there. We even have Coral Beauty, which is a dwarfed variety. Only gets maybe 12 feet, kind of like a redbud kind of size to it. Okay, questions on crabapples? What I find is the robins will come in about January, and all those little fruits, there'll be a flock of them. They will just devour all of the fruits on this tree all at once, and just like within a week, all the fruits are gone. They put on a little tiny little ornamental fruit that virtually never hits the ground. Yes?
How old is this tree?
This is probably about 10 years old. from seedling or cutting stage to this size.
So how long would it take to get like a tree?
So our question is, how much will it grow a year?
Yeah.
Yeah, about a foot a year, something like that. So red bud's probably a little less. This is probably last year's growth. What is that, about a foot right there? That's probably last year's growth. See that? Good question. Okay,
How about crab trees with watering? Are they a thirsty plant, non-thirsty?
crab apples?
Crab apples.
Well, I'd say moderate to low water user. You'll see some old ones around town that are virtually going on their own. They haven't been cared for in years, and so they're just going by themselves. So I would say that's not ideal. You should care for them. They'll actually perform better, have better color. But our water's all-purpose plant food. If you use that on your trees, how's the picture? Can you see it okay?
Yeah, somebody just said it.
Oh, good. Hey, you're welcome. So I think the all-purpose plant food is the main ingredient is cottonseed meal. It's a natural product. So you spread it on the ground. It'll go through the rock, go through the fabrics, fertilize the plant with that cottonseed meal, brings out the color, the fragrance of anything that blooms. So you want to talk about this one?
No, but I have a question for you since you were talking about feeding.
You're not part of the class.
So if you have a tree that blooms in the spring,
Yeah.
is it really important to feed in the fall and then again in the spring? Or is there one feeding that's more important than the other when you have a bloom?
The most important feeding, bar none, for spring blooming things, I mean, absolutely no question, is fall, October. Because it's going to use that food to generate the flowers following spring. So it's using the food right now to bloom, and it will use it all up when they get done. So I would say the most important for spring bloomers is in the fall. For summer bloomers, the most important feeding would be the spring, because it's going to use your crepe myrtles, desert willows, rose of Sharon's, all those things that bloom in the summer, trumpet vine. You'd fertilize now so it will bloom better for you in the summer. So always precede the spring, the season before. Really, we recommend fertilizing 3 times a year because you have no food in your yard, none. I mean, you have no topsoil, much less anything of nutrient in your yard. So we say fertilize 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall. If you're doing holidays, that'd be Easter. Although Easter's late this year. What is that? Usually Easter is in March, but this year it's in April. It'd be 4th of July, because the monsoons come. We get this wet cycle in the summer, so if you can fertilize right before that wet comes, you'll find that you get better plants. And then the fall of the year is I think, critical. I think it's the most important for everything, but especially spring bloomers and your evergreens. Because your pine and spruce, cypress, cedars, they only elongate once in the spring. That's it. What you get in the spring, that's all you get. It's not going to grow anymore. So if you can fertilize right beforehand and elongate that, you'll find your pinyon pines have better growth, they'll take on the scale. Yes.
Now, when you have these great big trees, where exactly do you put that fertilizer? Do you take it all the way to the trunk or just?
Very good. No, the trunk, there are no feeder roots at the trunk. These are just great big support roots with real bark. I mean, just barky. It can't absorb anything. No water, can't absorb food. All the feeder roots are real light, thin, kind of like little white hairs out towards the outer tips or drip line of the tree. So I tell folks, my clients that I help, go from the trunk. If I'm a tree, this is my outer limb. Put the fertilizer halfway out to the outer branch, all the way out to the drip line. So that's most of your food is going to be out there. The other mistake I find now that I get on my soapbox, don't fertilize, don't think in terms of your drip system. Your drip system has nothing to do with fertilization. So it's only about watering. And you're probably doing that incorrectly, because probably the contractor put the drip irrigation out at the trunk when it was small, and it's never been adjusted ever. You're still watering. That tree is actually being watered by the shrubs over there, by the flower bed over there now, because the roots have gone out. So think in terms of rain, moisture, fertilize for that event. Don't worry about your drip irrigation. I find too many folks want to put all the food right there where the drip emitters are. Huge mistake. Get them out at the drip line where all the roots are. Did we answer that one too much detail? So anyway.
Another question?
Yeah.
You said fall, what date do you consider?
Oh, Halloween. So Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. I got sidetracked. There you go. But you'll know because it's the fall color. You'll see the trees. If that's your cue, fertilize right there. Yeah. Okay.
Do you have to lift up what's holding the ground?
Oh, good question. Do we have to lift up or do we have to work in the fertilizer? No. I am a shortcut king. I'm the laziest gardener. I'm pretty lazy.
It's true. It's true.
We have fabulous gardens, but I am the shortcut king. I just chuck it. It takes me about 30 minutes to fertilize a half an acre. Now I'll just take a few bags. I put it in my hand spreader and I just sling it around. I go, I'm done. And then I expect the rain and the moisture to go through and get it through the rock, get it through. Now, if it gets on the walkways or it bothers me or I see it, maybe I'll rake it. I never have, but that really bothers you. If you're a true gardener, you should put the work into it. I'm giving you permission to work hard out in the garden and work it in the ground. But that's not what I would do. I would just chuck and go. The rain will take it in eventually. Okay?
So what do you think of those systems where they come out and they take their, those pole things and shoot the stuff into
Right.
it?
Into the trunk or
No,
into the
ground,
roots?
Like, yeah. or
So
something.
you're asking my opinion. Thank you. Gosh.
He's sorry.
So the question was, there's companies that actually inject water and fertilizer into the root zone. If you've got a property that has been neglected for, let's say, 3 years, no one's lived there. The widow just couldn't take care of it, and finally she moved in with the kids, and now you've got the home, you've got to clean up the mess. If it's never been worked, it hasn't been worked in years, maybe there would be some benefit, but I think you're better off using organic fertilizer, granular, and keeping up with it than to pay someone to come in, a commercial company. Usually we're doing that when they're completely drought stressed. We're trying to hydrate the soil. I think we could do that better by just tuning up our irrigation system more often, and we will never have to need that company to come do that. The company that does that, sorry, but I don't think there's a need for them if you're doing the gardening correctly. So I answer that?
Yeah.
Too much? Let's go over a tree or we could
sure.
be derailed forever. So this one is super unusual, crazy unusual. Usually you see pussy willows going this way, kind of a shrub. But we've put a graft at the bottom and a graft up here. We have it actually weeping now. So you get a weeping pussy willow.
Fun tree. It's kind of the cousin it tree of the yard.
That's
you
good.
know. But very, very unique, especially when the little pumpkins, is that the right word?
I call them flowers.
Little flowers
Oh,
come on.
probably more
Very,
accurate.
very pretty. It would also do well in a container, don't you think?
Super raised beds, containers. It's small. It does not get any bigger than this. It'll get wider, flow more, and it'll flow right to the ground. But this is not going to be a shade tree like a weeping willow. This is simply to make you, it's for emotional response. I find people either love them and go crazy of them or hate them, but you can't be in the middle. You have to either love it or hate it, decide. But this would be great in a great big cobalt blue pot with purple pansies at the base, and it would be gorgeous. You could turn this into a true design thing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Maybe I should skip the weeping falls and put this in.
Okay. This is a high water user.
Or I could get another pot.
Yeah. She has over 50 pots at her house.
So
already.
would that do well in a lawn situation?
Yeah, I think you do fine in the lawn. Or another place would be in that driveway that goes around, that planting area where the drive goes around. If you've got that kind of landscape, you're real pretty as an accent. It's made to draw you into the garden and enjoy that part of the garden. That's how you use these unique, different, unusual specimen trees. Not just a shade tree. This is something to woo you into this part of the garden. Out by a back patio where you're just sitting and watching the sunset. That's where you put these things. You go, wow, that's neat. It doesn't get too big, so it doesn't take away your view, but it's still something interesting.
It could be
That's how
really
you design
pretty
it.
at the end of a garden path, you know, we have little paths in our
Oh,
yard.
yeah. That's a
That could
great
be
idea.
something very unique to put at the end of your path, to draw people back there.
This one, you got, if you're doing weeping, I guess we had to do this one. This one opened up a couple days ago. Still, the flowers are still opening. You want to talk about this one?
Nick, go ahead. You're on a roll.
We do a radio show together every week. How many have heard the radio show? Anyone? No one. Oh, okay, half the crowd. Okay, so it's on
Yeah,
the
we
local
people
talk
do it.
show, a KQ&A, and it's on NPR, the KJazz radio network. So we go back and forth like this for an hour. It's kind of fun. This is a weeping cherry. You'll see some wild prunus. The native is prunus, so it's very tough. I would call cherries low water users. If you're going to kill this, it'll be in a soil that's real heavy, thick, and you overwater it. But this is what it does. It does this instead of a weeping willow, you got a weeping cherry. This is as tall as it gets. Maybe you get another foot or so as it puts on more branches and comes out, and you get this huge umbrella shape to it. These will actually touch the ground, and then usually you will trim them up so it looks like a more formal kind of thing. Again, it's either love-hate kind of stuff, but this would be great with a picnic set underneath it, or settee kind of thing. It'll grow that big where you can actually use it as an accent out in the gardens.
It has beautiful bark on it. When we're done with class, you should come check the bark out.
Bark is very
It almost
unusual.
has like a multicolor bark
It's a
on
cherry
it. It's
for you.
very, very attractive.
And cherries, all the cherries, we've got regular flowering cherries as well, but the cherries always have a double flower. So it's not this single, it's got this lacy, dangly kind of flower. That's how I can identify a cherry. I mean, at 50 miles an hour, a cherry tree, you can just spot them because it's got this more delicate flower to it. It kind of comes.
This
Weeping
one's
cherry.
ornamental, correct?
Ornamental does not put any kind of, no fruit whatsoever. Just made to be
Pretty.
pretty. It's just super unusual, crazy unusual.
Oh, watch slow. Okay.
Which one next?
Ooh, talk about the serviceberry.
Okay.
That's probably one of my favorite trees, and a lot of people don't know what it is or have heard of it. But a great little tree to put out in the yard. Go ahead.
This is if you're into xeriscape or native kind of landscapes, this is the one you want. This red buds, chase trees, there's some that are very tough. This one does grow wild throughout the mountain range. It's called an amalancher or autumn brilliant silverberry.
Serviceberry.
Serviceberry, yeah, that's the other evergreen. It's on a white flower, and it's one of the last trees that turn red in the fall of the year. Gets up to about, I don't know, 20 foot tall, something like that.
At the most.
Yeah,
It's not
most
a-
really,
yeah.
it's mid-high teens, something like that. So it's a short tree, but ornamental, very pretty, very drought-hardy.
It does
tough.
produce a little berry on it, a little, almost like a cherry. There again, birds love it. If you're trying to bring
Yeah.
birds into the yard, it would be a great tree for that. Beautiful fall color.
Yeah, the leaves are kind of like an elm. They're not an elm. They don't put a seed on like that weedy elm. But it's very low maintenance, very low care. Neglect it, I mean, talk dirty to it, kick stuff at it, it will still grow. Be happy as can be.
Yeah. It also comes in a shrub form. So if you don't want a tree, but you like the concept, it comes in a little shrub, bushy shrub form as well.
Yeah, 20 by 15 is what it's.
Yeah.
I love the fall color. We sell more of these in the fall than we do in the spring when it's in bloom. Because there's, quite frankly, there's other trees that have better flowers, but there's no tree that has better fall color.
It has a bright orange color,
Yeah,
so it's
very
not
unusual.
bright, you know, it's not like your maples and stuff. It's a really pretty orange.
What was the name of the shrub?
It's the same thing. It's a serviceberry.
How
And I
big
think
did that get?
the shrub probably, if you were to let it grow, 12 to 15.
Same height as this one. Let's talk about it. We'll go pretty, then
Okay.
ugly, pretty, then ugly, pretty, then ugly.
Well, that's ugly.
This is a chase tree. I got to bring it up because it's one of the best summer blooming trees. And I brought it for a couple reasons. One, we're getting phone calls right now going, my trumpet vine is not leafed out. I think it's dead. My grapes have not leafed out. I think it's dead. All the summer things, crepe myrtles, desert willows. People are calling every day. It's many phone calls. And there's some plants that have zero interest in spring. They don't like spring. They like summer. Some people are like that. You like spring. I don't. I like summer. I'm like a lizard. I crawl up on a rock and just warm me up and I feel better. I like that. I'm a summer guy. I like it to be 90 degrees. I like that. This guy does too. Chase tree grows up the same size as a serviceberry, gets up to mid-teens, big upright tree, big shrub, a short tree, I guess. And then the top of it, you see the old spent flowers right here. That's the flower that was from last year, bright blue, in July and August. And then this will be a good companion with the shrub form of that serviceberry as well. So good plant. Hummingbirds tend to like this a lot. So you will have hummingbird nests. You'll have hummingbirds eat the whole thing, but drought hardy, very tough. You can't, I mean, if you're gonna kill it, it'll be from overwatering it. It's made for northern Arizona. In the back.
Is that Vitex?
Vitex is the Latin name. Very good. I love gardeners. Yeah. Chase tree is a common name. Vitex is the botanical, the Latin name. Okay. Looks ugly now. It just started. I mean, literally just like a couple days ago, started to show that it was sort of alive. But I brought it for 2 lessons.
It just started, and it's actually in a very warm, where we keep it, it's
Yeah.
a very warm
Yeah.
part of the garden center, it's up against the wall. So in a yard out in the open, it may not even be ready to leaf yet. But
When people call and I'm talking to them, I'll tell them, wait till middle of May. Just I'm trying to stall, because it probably will leaf out by 1st of May, but I don't want you calling me again going, no, I really think it's dead. I just want to stall, give you time, fertilize it, that'll make a difference. Also, another trick, I wonder if we have let's do this one, this sumac rubina.
switch sites.
Yeah. We won't switch sides. I brought this one because it's also a blooming tree. Sumacs are super drought hardy. We use this one behind our pond because I wanted a palm tree look, but palms don't grow here. So, but I wanted something tall so that you weren't looking at my neighbor's rooftop, you're looking at my gardens and my pond. So I'm forcing the eye this way. But I wanted, the backyard is super native. I mean, it's drought hardy. We spend a lot of time back there and no care. All of it's for entertainment, patio. I mean, it's grills and big sweeping patios, hot tubs. It's all that. That's what it's made to be. Enjoyment, not work and labor. So I use this in the back because it's so drought hardy. It puts on a little flower, kind of like that. Has kind of spikes that come up, seed pods. It's very, very pretty. And nothing eats this. Deer don't eat it. It grows by itself. I took it off the drip system after year 1. I got it rooted and then never cared for it again. It's a great little plant. Sumac puts on these rows of fern or palm looking leaves to it. If you want to know if it's alive or dead, simply take the bark, scrape it, and if it's green underneath, can you see that color right there? If it's green underneath, it's alive. This will leaf, of course it is leafing out. Poor bud baby.
Do these propagate like strawberries? Do they
Send
multiply?
runners.
They do multiply. You never have just one sumac. If they're happy, you always have families, kind of like an aspen, same way. So yes, if they come up where I want them to come up, I encourage them. And if they come up where I don't want them, I take a shovel to the head, pop it out of the ground, and go, no more. So it's pretty easy to maintain because they're shallow ridded. Okay? I don't know why they're so tough. They look delicate, but
They do.
beautiful, stunning orange and red color. It's famous for its red color. Drought hardy, zero escape. That's nice.
Getting your workout this morning, huh?
You talk about purple robe locust?
Purple robe?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You talk about it. Or we can just read about it.
Again, talking about really tough trees, anything in that locust family or those trees that love the heat, love the sun, don't need a lot of water. Purple robe is gorgeous in that about Mother's Day,
Yeah.
puts on almost like a lilac or
Wisteria,
wisteria type
yeah.
blossom. Very, very pretty, long pink blossom, absolutely gorgeous. And it's would you call it, I guess it's a medium growing tree.
I
Or
call
would
it
you call it
fast. I mean, that's last year's growth, 2 feet. You can easily get 2 feet of it.
How tall does it get? 30?
We've got a fully mature one and against the fence
Oh,
line. It's got to be
that's
40 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shade tree. Big, fast growing, drought hardy. tree is what it is. If you want a shade tree that's really pretty, that's it. This is purple rug locust. It is a good one for here.
Right, I agree. Very pretty when it blooms. When that tree blooms over there, last year it was stunning.
Yeah.
It was
Another
really
month, we
stunning.
got to stock up. I think this is like the last one.
Oh my gosh, we just got them in.
They haven't, I know. So this one turns gold in the fall, so it's like aspen gold. Big locust kind of leaves. You know, locust puts on a long stem and then has leaves coming off the sides. It's that. It'll get up 35, 40 foot tall by probably 20, 25 foot wide. So it's kind of a big shade tree like this. Does not put a bean pod on, so we bred that out of the tree. So a lot of locusts will put a bean pod on. Some people like that, most people don't. So we bred that out. You'll notice too, this is a good example. You notice this tape right here? Anyone know what that is? Grafting tape? Very good. Yeah, very good. So grafting tape is grafting all of our trees. All of our trees are grafted. All of them. Because it's a more desirable tree. What we'll do is we'll take a 2-year root. We'll graft, we'll cut off a limb of a desirable tree that we like. And then we'll graft that onto this older, more mature rootstock. If you do that right, you've got a more robust tree. So we're known as a place where our trees live. Our plants just live more than other places. That's one secret. Don't let anyone know. But that's how we get our trees specifically to be more robust. And then we'll actually graft more. Once it grows up, if you don't trim it, shape it, it'll tend to just become a whip. This long tree that blows in the wind and blows over. So what we'll do is we'll nip it and we'll take out the growth hormones on the end of a limb. We'll take that and regraft it, so now we can get some more branching to it. So we get a thicker trunk and more scaffolding, is what they call it, on the tree. So that's actually the old grafting tape. It's just I don't know, just regular tape. That's where we actually cut it, grafted a new branch in there, so you get a nicer, premium, better grade tree. It's kind of an art to do that right. If you do it right, you got this gorgeous tree that grows. An ugly tree never becomes beautiful. It just becomes more ugly. Literally, that's what happens. And then a beautiful tree, if you get a nice one, it becomes more beautiful as it grows and matures. Literally, you want to spend your money on your trees. Cut back on, this is a weed. Don't spend any money on this. This is a red-tip botinia. Plant the smallest one you can find and put a row of them, because they're going to take over eventually. And then take that landscape dollar and put it into your trees. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm tired of looking at ugly trees. We will not introduce ugly trees here. And we won't introduce elms. Not Siberian elms. So some of the companies around here sell that elm that grows wild, just comes up every place. Those seed out, and eventually, in a nuclear holocaust, all that will be left are elms and ants, I think. That's it. So we just don't sell that one because I don't like it. I don't like that tree. Okay, what next? Lilac? Lilac tree, super unusual. So you can see it's about to bloom, the blue flowers. So again, we grafted. It's got a graft out here, and then we grafted up here. So usually, always, lilacs are shrubs. This is actually meant to be a tree. It'll get about like this big with age. You can easily keep it trimmed down. This is one you want to put into a raised bed. Containers. It's good. What else?
That's all I
I'm
got.
talking too much.
You do it so well.
I like to hear myself talk.
Would that be like a rose tree also? The rose?
Rose tree be the same way. Similar, you plant them in the same place. We've got quite a few unusual things. We're trying to we get bored, I think. So we just go, we go tour farms and we go, ooh, that's neat. We'll take all of those, bring them. So.
You should talk about the pear. You were talking about grafting.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So that pear that has the multi-grass on it.
Yeah. In fact, I brought both of these because so many times there's an edible revolution going on. The Victory Garden, I think the millennials are going to bring back the Victory Garden. The younger, new homeowners, they are all into cooking and food, backyard vegetables, and fruit trees. It's the department, since the economy came back in the last 5 years, the number of fruit trees we've been selling, it's almost selling as many as the shade trees. It is really exciting to see. So I brought a couple things just to say fruit trees are blooming. This is actually a Bing cherry. So they'll put on
It's a
that little
van
dark
cherry.
van. Oh, this is a van cherry. Thank you. Self-fruiting, so it only takes one and it'll produce cherries by itself. We grew a cherry for years, probably 10 years, in just a big pot. I would just keep it down. I got it up to size with a hot tub, and then once it was up about 10 feet, I never let it grow again. So I just kept it at that size. Every year, tons of cherries. And so you can't have that. Now, if you're not going to use the cherries, take them to the food bank. I'll get extra fruit and I'll take it in, and I've never once seen any fresh produce get to the back coolers they have back there. They go right on the truck, and they're so grateful to get them. It's amazing. So take the extra spoils, you give them to friends, families, but pretty double flower, fall color is gold, cherry. This one, what Lisa mentioned is, this is a pear. It's a 4-in-1 pear, and we grafted 4 different types of pears onto one tree.
Oh, my.
So now you're going to harvest all the comice pears over here, all the Bartletts over here, and they ripen at different times. So you can pick them off, so you're not overwhelmed with pears all at once. And so we got 4 different pears on one tree, and they help cross-pollinate each other. So one tree will now get pears. Typically, you need 2 trees to kind of pollinate each other. This one you only need 1. Just something fun,
What
different.
about trimming these trees?
Well, pruning, you prune it just like a regular, like any other fruit tree, any other pear. It'd be the same technique. So get the scaffolding right, get the structure right. When it loads up, literally when pears produce, my mouth's watering thinking about fresh pears. They're so good. They're so bad in the store.
Yeah.
Fresh off the tree is so good. Anyway, they're crisper and sweeter.
Do you do the grafting? Or?
This has been grafted 4 different ways. I don't graft myself, but I have friends that do. So that's kind of how we do it.
What's the
Yeah.
cost of that tree?
Probably like $100, $120. Like a
How
reg-
tall does it get?
This will get regular pear size.
Which is?
So it's going to be 30 by 20. Pears kind of grow like this. Pears are a big tree. Or actually, that one might be semi-dwarf. I'll have to look.
I can't remember. Could
Well,
be.
we'll look later. But it can be kept down. In Prescott Valley, we kept our orchard, Prescott Valley Orchard. We had a quarter acre lot, a tiny thing. But we put trees in along the fence line, and we just put them at 8-foot centers, and we encouraged them to grow. And in between, we put grapes and vine stuff, so the entire chain link fence, which is ugly, softened it up, and now we had this secret vegetable, secret garden kind of feel. It was beautiful. So
I've seen that with apples too. That's another one they'll graft 3
Yeah.
to 4 different varieties on. I haven't really seen it with cherries or anything like that, but kind of fun.
it's different.
Was
Yeah.
there another question? Thought I saw.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have birds or something going after the cherries or something?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, everything likes cherries. Everything, birds.
You just kind of go,
Rats,
okay, they get a certain
squirrels.
amount, we get the rest.
I tell you, I had great success. Right now, we traded out that cherry. We put a peach in. We just get bored, so we want to change. And so now we got peaches. What I do is they make a reflective bird tape, and I'll string that down the tree, and it keeps them off pretty well.
Actually, it
It
does.
does a great job. So the bird tape is great, or you just keep it small, netting, and all the fruit is yours. We're bird gardeners, so we like birds. We're willing to give some of it up to attract birds. It's amazing the birds that we have here. This one I brought, this is Hot Wings Maple. This is one we're trying to introduce into the area. Again, it's drought tolerant. So if you're going to kill it, it'll be from overwatering. It's the perfect size for most yards. Gets up to that 20, 25 foot level. Gets round. And it's got the regular maple leaf to it. So like everyone wants a maple, but so many of the maples are too big. They get 40, 50, 60 feet tall. Big autumn blaze, matador, celebration. These are big, big trees. Too big for a lot of areas. This is half the size of most other maples. It's the same maple leaf to it, kind of like an amber leaf maple, but in the summer, the stamens, the seed pods are bright red. the entire top of the tree will be loaded with this beautiful red, almost like you went to the hair salon and got red dye all over the tree. It's beautiful.
It is pretty.
It's stunning and drought hardy. Birds like it. It's just a good tree from here. So this is our third year, it's our third season trying to introduce it. We're selling more and more, and eventually we'll get this. We've introduced a lot of plants over the years. Eventually it gets to where everyone starts to see them in the neighborhood, and then everyone wants one.
What's the name of it again?
It's hot wings maples. The little seeds, wing things are all red. Very, very pretty. Take a close look.
Summer.
In the summer, yeah. It's not a bloomer technically, but it sure looks like it's on fire. It's kind of pretty.
It's very stunning. It's gorgeous.
Hot wings maple. Yeah. Starting to run out of room. What do you want to talk about next?
I think you're almost done.
Getting there. I brought this one just because it was so pretty.
Oh,
Did you lose one? In the front row, you can be bushwhacked. Be careful. This one is, what's the exact name of that? I just got it because the form is so, for a 15, 20 gallon tree, it's like glorious. I don't get excited very often, but this is Showtime Flowering Crabapple. So again, I put a little tiny, tiny fruit on. If it puts up fruit on it, it'll be real tiny. It has a white and pink variegated flower, double flower. A good drought hardy, easy growing tree.
So this would be a good example because we could tell it's been grafted towards the bottom.
Oh yeah, right here.
So when you plant these trees that are grafted,
Yeah.
it is so important not to bury that graft.
Oh, yeah.
You do not want to plant deep or you will kill your tree. So wherever that soil level is in that container, you want that even with your ground.
Yeah.
So important with grafted trees.
I would go so far as to say with trees, do not put any soil on top of the root ball. Let it breathe. Don't bury it. So I would say get the soil up about this. Why don't we go into how to plant just real quick? Because this one's an easy one to get to. When you're planting, the hole only has to be as deep as the bucket. Do not go down to China. Just go this deep. That's it. And then go add a bucket on either side. Can they see it on Facebook? And then kind of saucer shaped. So the hole is going to be 3 times the width, same depth, saucer shaped. Okay? Out in the 69 corridor, this would be Yavapai Hills, the ranch, all the way past Prescott Valley, Humboldt, Dewey, Cordes Junction. Caliche layers abound out there. I mean, they are thick. The clay is ridiculous. We don't dig soil out, we dig chunks of clay out. It's bad. And the plants don't want to root through that. And they tend to drown, like I was mentioning before. There, what we do is, we'll actually leave a portion of the root out of the ground. We'll actually plant on a very slight mound. No one will know it's there except you, but it guarantees during the monsoon seasons in the summer that part of the roots can breathe. And so, and then we'll mix our mulch, try to cut that clay and add some organics back into it so it doesn't compress right back down to its thick clay form. We're trying to aerate it. So literally we had a very large planting yesterday in Dewey. They brought back more dirt than when they were taking this clay out and amending, they were bringing back almost a truckload of dirt. Clay, it wasn't dirt, it was yuck and muck. So that's a technique that'll really work. If in doubt, plant it high or at level and don't bury this. Leave this exposed so that it can breathe. Trees, you can drown a tree. We see it more often than not. You're more likely to kill a tree from watering than from having it go dry. Okay? Questions on planting? Yes?
now if you have a young tree, like I have a regular ash,
Yeah.
it's like a year old,
Great tree.
nearly didn't survive because we discovered gophers. But I
Oh,
took care of those already, I re-poisoned.
good.
But it looks like a stick in like one of those trees that will never come back again, but it's starting to produce little shoots. Now, how much do I water that, seeing as it's such a new baby?
So you probably a couple times a week in April. Whenever it gets up to maybe 80 degrees, stay there. Probably a couple times a week because you don't have many roots. So it's going to be more dependent on you because those gophers ate the roots off. And this would be critical for you. Root and grow is going to, I'd water it in every couple of weeks. until you see it stabilize and coming out for spring. This is a rooting hormone, so it'll force, where the gophers ate the root off, it'll force it to send out more root hairs. Whenever you plant, you need three things. Mulch. This adds some organics. For you folks in the Midwest, mulch is not bark. Mulch is compost. In the West, we call it compost and mulch. So this looks like a thick, rich mocha organic, okay? So you want to use about 25% of this to your native earth, okay? I can go all the way up to 50-50 if I've got a big boulder or just really a lot of debris in there. You'll see contractor buried stuff in the ground sometimes, all kinds of crazy stuff you get in there. So about 25% to 50, don't go any higher than that. I'll blend, I dig my hole, I'll thin any chunk bigger than a golf ball, I get rid of that. And then I'll take some of this at that rate and blend it together, and that's what I use to backfill around the root ball. When I'm all done, I'll add some all-purpose plant food. This is that organic, natural food. I'll use it at the recommended rate, sprinkle it on top. That way, every time I water or it rains, it's going to release a little bit of food every time it gets moisture. And then I'll use the root and grow when I first plant it, especially. I usually have this pre-mix in a watering can. I'll water the thing in when I'm all done. It's for transplant shock and for encouraging more roots. In a dry climate, it's all about root count. As many roots as you can get before summer, it's ideal. And for larger trees, I would say, especially in the windy areas, if you're up on that ridge line with all the vistas, you have to stake this tree, or it will start leaning to the northeast. We'll get this prevailing southwest wind here in a moment. I mean, within weeks, by April, we get a prevailing southwest wind. It blows nonstop, day and night, constantly, until the monsoons come. And so you'll get these trees where they start to leaf out, they catch the wind, and they start to lean. And so you'll drive a neighborhood and you look at them. They're all leaning to the northeast. And so that's stake them until they get strong enough to go it on their own. Especially important for fruit trees. So that's how you plant. Any questions on that? I'll send you, those of you that put your email down, I'll send you the planting guide. It's got a one sheet right there, and on the back it's got the water guide. It'll really help you on the trees. Yeah.
So the white bag, that's what you're talking about doing 3 times a year?
Yes. Yeah, this is what you do 3 times a year. Yeah. We only sell one fertilizer. This is it. It's used for new plantings, old plantings, lawns, flowers. It's just a good balanced food, and it's slow release of the plants for the next 3 months. It'll give that plant some food. Okay. All-purpose planting. Okay. Done with this. We got that out of the way. I think we could. Let's just crank through really quick.
Okay.
Last week, because we're kind of going. We're at almost 55 minutes. Let me get this out of the way. Yeah. I've unloaded like 2,000 trees in the last 2-3 weeks.
We have a lot of new trees.
So let's go with this one. This is, we started the class with this purple leaf plum. It's been blooming pink. Now it's putting on the purple foliage. KV or powder vesuvius, no one can pronounce that, so we just go KV. Okay.
It's another one of those, similar to the red bud. You can almost ignore them sometimes, and they just keep going.
What was this? Royal raindrop crabapple again. It has this red flower. It's pretty. We should do this. Another weeping cherry. Amy must have brought this up, but it's just a different color. Again, double flower. See the cherry, you can always tell it's got that double flower to it, clusters of them. So
Hang differently. Yeah.
they do, yeah, they dangle. Then I brought this one just because it's not blooming, but it's super unusual. The foliage is unusual. This is one, again, I'm trying to introduce into the area because I've put this into a couple commercial settings. It has really done well. It's a regal petticoat maple. So it's going to get big. It's going to get shade tree size. What's super unusual about this is the top of the leaf is green. The bottom is purple. Very, very pretty. Big leaf, like a maple. Traditional maple leaf. The color is very unusual. And then in the fall of the year, the top of the leaf will turn orange, and the bottom turns red. It's really, really unusual, and very, very drought hardy. It's kind of related to the sugar maples. It's a grafted, different kind of tree, but if you want a good shade tree that's very unusual, not blooming, but just super unusual, this is a good tree for the mountains. It's really proving out itself to do really well. Regal petticoat maple. With that,
We're down
I
to
think we're
shrubs.
done. Well, I only brought these as a teaser before the class started, so it's not really related. They're unusual. You want to talk about?
Well, we already kind of talked about the forsythia, which
Yeah.
is the yellow.
Okay.
One of those that announces spring. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is a flowering almond. This is one of my favorite little shrubs. Doesn't produce an almond. It's the ornamental there.
Just
again.
pretty.
But just, it gets what, 4 foot tall?
Yeah, if you let it go, maybe head high. Most people keep them down about like a forsythia or lilac size. Very drought hardy, very tough. And it always blooms about the time the forsythia bloom, right before the lilacs. It's a spring bloomer, but most folks don't know what it is because it blooms before the entire community hits the garden center. We've already sold out of them. They're already done, but this is the time when they start to bloom and show up. But the flowering almond
Very pretty.
is very double flowers, pretty. I brought this one because we don't see them very often.
What is that?
It's a rose mallow or tree mallow. This thing gets about this big. We had it in Skull Valley
We did.
in that back garden on the side.
Okay.
It's like an evergreen perennial or a shrub kind of thing. I don't know what it's not a shrub, it's like a perennial. Gets about this tall and it just does this all the time. Amazing drought hardy plant. So mallows, anytime you hear the word mallow in a plant, it means drought hardy native. This is going to be a drought hardy native. So if you're into xeriscape stuff, but you're kind of tired of all the rock, you want something that looks good, treat it like a tree or abuse it, kind of stuff. I think I treated this, I got it going, then I let it, kind of cut it off the drip system, yeah.
Does it go completely back to the ground in the winter?
No,
Or
it-
keeps a branch.
Well, it's been a few years, but there we grew it for a couple of years, then I'd whack it back, going, that's enough, starting over. So I treat it like a sage or something. Isn't that pretty? Whatever, it smells good. No smell. No. It's tree mallow. And I'll probably only have this crop and then it's done. It's hard to find. So if you're thinking about one of these, grab it now because it won't be here in a week. It'll be gone. You'll be going, Kim talked about tree mallow. Where is that? We ain't got no more. Then we're trying to introduce more century plants or agaves. Got a friend of ours out in Tucson. He's a master at growing natives. He's the best. In the Southwest, he's introducing a lot of new plants. He's finding, curating, and he's starting to introduce a lot of new plants in northern Arizona and Albuquerque. So he's making plants for us, which is finally, everything's been going to Phoenix and Tucson. It's like we're stepchildren
But
up
we're
here in the
not bitter
mountains.
about it.
We are bitter about it. So anyway, this is a Palmer's century plant. Take a close look after the class. It's like the regular one that grows up on the ridge lines up at the canyon height. It's cold hardy, but the outer spines are red. Very unusual. The century plants are also the one that puts on that real tall flower to it. It's rumored to bloom once every century. That's the name. Really, it'll bloom about once every 20 or so years. So it puts on that great big, you can almost watch it grow by the day when it goes into bloom. Spectacular. But Palmer's century plant, just got excited about it. I don't get excited very often about plants. They're kind of boring anymore, but this is neat. Yeah.
In Tucson, when I lived there, I had a huge century plant in the front yard. And that thing, like you said, just once produced that stick, and it went all the way above the house.
Oh yeah, it'll go
And then
12.
the guys came along and cut it down because it was too near the lines.
Oh really? Boy.
I don't know how tall it would have gotten, but it was going 2 feet a day.
It'll go almost 2 stories tall. It's amazing to watch. And then, another little secret, if you cut them off, you can use them as ornaments. They tie them against the fence, so you can use them as decorative things. Now the mother plant will die when it's done, but then usually the way agaves work, it'll go up with a seed pod, it'll drop down, and it will seed over there. That's how it spreads. and then it'll have pups, babies at the base of it. So the mother plant will die and give its seed over there, and then all the babies from the roots will come up over here. So they come out in pods or in groups or herds. This is a herding plant.
That's a new one, dear. Never heard that.
Okay, any last questions on flowering trees, how to get them to grow, how to fertilize them, how to water them? You'll have an email to you shortly on how to plant them. Maybe I'll send the planting guide, and then also the top 10 plant list. That might help this crew. Yeah.
I just have a question on the watering. I've got 2 huge maples and 2 evergreens.
Okay.
I was told to not water them because they've been there 10 years, the renters probably never taken care of. But I still will water them every 10 days in the summer like they originally told me. So am I supposed to do that?
So how to water something that's well established? That's the question. Things that are rooted, really well rooted. It takes 2 years for a plant to go from in a bucket to the surrounding soil to really go. So people want, I want natives. I don't want to water them ever. Well, you have to get over that because you're going to have to care for them for at least a couple seasons until the roots start to spread and they become established. Yours are definitely established. I would think every 10 to 14 days would keep them healthy. I do not believe in having plants go by themselves. I think man was created to take care of gardens. It's Adam and Eve stuff from the beginning. We have this natural tendency to just want to care for things. And so plants need our care. They do better with our care. And I think that goes for our natives too, our native ponderosas, native pinyon pines. If you don't care for them, they've been going on their own for hundreds of years. But that was before they put the road cuts in and put rooftops down. And we've changed how the water flows through neighborhoods. They cannot go on their own anymore. They need us to care for them. So I think you should fertilize those once a year, maybe not 3 times a year because they're big enough. But once a year, definitely keep them healthy. You have to water them every couple of weeks. Probably enough. Especially what you'll find is March is typically a wet month for us. In April it transitions. And from April through June it is bone dry and windy and new foliage. Just 10% humidity with a prevailing southwest wind with brand new foliage. That's going to be hard on plants. You just try to get them to live until the monsoons come. You fertilize them right as the monsoons hit, and they just take off with brand new growth. They look like a whole new tree. So if you know that's how our cycles work with it, and you can actually increase the growth. Is there another question in the back?
Well, it's probably a dumb question, but you guys would plant the trees if you bought them here?
Yeah, we do planting. Yeah, we can get as involved as you want. So the question was, do we plant? Yes. Yeah. We're finding, we're trying to introduce larger and larger specimens. So we've got up to 95-gallon trees. This is a massive tree. You do not want to plant that yourself. You want young backs and weak minds. You want heavy equipment. You want jackhammers. You want sharp shovels, not picking away at things. You want us to plant the big ones. Small things, I mean, you can plant that easy. That's nothing. But a big 15-gallon and above, like even I have the crew come out and plant it in my yard. I don't do it myself. I've had 2 back surgeries. I just can't do it like I used to. So I don't want to. It's not fun. I'd rather sit there with tea and tell them how to do it. Yeah.
I have a question about pruning lilacs, because ours are blooming now, and they haven't been groomed for years. So we have some big plants coming out, and there are a lot of new growths in the bottom.
Yeah.
So after they finish blooming, do I cut the big stuff out?
So her question was, for those over here, those of you online, how do you prune a lilac? Especially one that's grown, kind of overgrown, hasn't been cared for in a little bit. So when do you prune it? Good call. So she knows, prune it after stem blooming. You can prune it right now, but you'll prune all the flower buds off. You've gone this long, why not wait a couple weeks? Enjoy the flowers. So Lisa went out last night and picked, we've got a white lilac, very fragrant, beautiful. She went out and picked the blossoms, put them in a vase, brought them inside. They're spectacular. Enjoy that first, and then we prune the lilacs, the forsythias, the quince, almonds, we prune them after they're done blooming. So you enjoy the spring bloom first, then you prune. It's kind of reversed what you do with fruit trees and the other things. Do I prune out the big woody stems? Yes. Be aggressive. Sometimes they'll get kind of old and crusty and skin gets too thick and they don't bloom as well as they used to. I'd make a notation of which stems, branches did not bloom very well. I would cut that one out, start with that. Then I would shape it, take some of the really big stems, take it out so sun could hit the suckers down below. So I get this young, new, vibrant growth. Lilacs bloom best on young branches. So if you know that, go ahead and fertilize it, prune it back so I get all this new growth coming up. You'll start setting new buds for next year by late summer through fall and winter. When setting buds. Not all. Now we're getting into extreme. Without seeing it, it's kind of an art form. But I would take out some strategic, bigger things. I do that for roses too. I think roses get way too woody. We need to be more aggressive with those and prune them back because roses form like a lilac. They bloom better flowers. Oh, I'm getting tongue-tied all of a sudden. They bloom on younger wood better than old wood. So, okay? Yes, you're full of questions this morning. It's good. Yeah.
I actually have two.
Okay.
I have 2-year-old established the ornamental pear, and this is my first year here. So when you say water it between like April and June, should I use like a soaker hose?
So yeah, how do I water it? So you don't want the water. So how do I water an established 10-year-old Radford pear, which are drought-hardy? They're tough.
Okay.
If it was on a drip system, probably the drippers are right there, or you put your watering mound or basin right around the trunk. There's no watering roots out there anymore. It's all the roots are out here, like we said before. That's why you want to fertilize at the drip line, not at the trunk. You want to water at the drip line, not the trunk. So, if you don't have a drip system, a soaker hose is a great way to go. So in fact, we have predetermined soaker hoses. You know, they take rubber tires and chew them up and then glue them together so they weep, so they seep. We've got some down there for trees. They're made to go into a hose, they're predetermined around, they're just the right size. You might pick up one of the very inexpensive, keep it there, and just connect your hose out. I would say if you're doing that, you're going to do it once every, twice a month. It's almost like flood irrigating down the deserts. So you're letting it run for half a day, all day. Yeah.
Barely sees that, it's not that it's boring.
You've got to water not just a half an hour with a soaker hose would be, you get about that much of the soil actually watered. You want to push that water down for the entire root zone, which would be a couple feet down. If you do that, now you can go a long period, because it takes a long time for that much soil to dry out again. So it's going to be it's going to water a long time. Those of you in Southern California, you're used to flood irrigating, so that's how you water there. It's sort of like that. You got to keep the water on a long time to get the right amount on, and a soaker hose is super efficient because none of it evaporates off. It doesn't run off. It just slowly weeps and drips down into the soil. It takes a while to do that. So there's an art to watering. Kind of use some gardener's common sense, but that's kind of how you do it.